Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Academic Resources webinar panel. We have quite a few special guests here today to speak with you about the different resources that will be available to you as a University of Chicago student, and we will dive into those in just one moment. To introduce myself, my name is Samuel Schallenberger. I am the Assistant Director of Orientation and Student Development in our College Programming and Orientation Office here on campus. So you've already heard from us a lot this summer via newsletters and Canvas modules of our online orientation piece. And this is just another way in which we get these resources in your hands. So today we will hear from the Center for College Student Success, as well as our Student Disability Services Office and Study Abroad. And then we have other webinars coming up, as you likely saw on that calendar that was flashing by while we waited for the webinar to begin. So you can find all of those on our website. This webinar, as are all of our webinars, is being recorded. So you will be able to watch back. If you need to leave at any point during today, or if you just want to refresh your memory later on, these are all available on our College Programming and Orientation Office website. So you'll be able to access all of that. And without further ado, I am going to go ahead. Oh, and you can also find that link in the chat. Shout out to Whitney for sending that out. I'm going to go ahead and get us started with Jennifer Telshow from the Center for College Student Success. Jennifer, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and you will be good to go.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome to U Chicago. Like Samuel said, I'm Jennifer Telshow, and she, her pronouns, and I'm one of the assistant directors in the Center for College Student Success, which I'll be calling CCSS during the presentation. All right, so before I get into exactly what CCSS is and does, a little bit about our team. So as I mentioned, I'm Jennifer, and I'm one of 3 staff members at CCSS, along with Talea and Almandra. So 3 full-time staff, and we're here operating the center. And our contact information is up there. You can feel free to reach out to any of us. And on the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit about where we are. So CCSS is in Harper Memorial Library, so kind of in the center of campus in the West Tower on the 4th floor. I know that's a lot, so if you ever want to stop by, just make sure to look up where we're at. These are a few pictures of our center. So we do have a study space, we have a lounge, all of our offices are here, so you can come stop by and say hello. And then we also have free coffee and snacks and study supplies available to all students. So the Center for College Student Success, I'll just read a little bit about our mission. So we're here for all students in the college, but we primarily support students who identify as first generation, lower income, and or undocumented, so otherwise known as FLY students. In the college, we provide resources and tools that promote student success, and also programming and community events to help build positive self-identity and a sense of belonging. So on the next slide, so we talked a little bit about how we serve FLY students. So you may be asking, what is FLY? So I'm going to break this down a little bit more. And would encourage you to see if you identify as FLY, because we might be the resource for you. So first generation, FLY is first generation and or low income and or undocumented. So first generation, you would be a first generation college student if neither one of your parents has earned a 4-year degree in the United States. So if your parents went to a community college, you would still be a first generation college student. They didn't get a 4-year degree. Low income is a little bit harder to define, and so a lot of students will self-identify if they're on that spectrum, but usually if you are an Odyssey Scholar or if you have a Pell Grant included in your financial aid, or you come from a family that may make lower income than those around you, then you could fall under low income. And I just want to point out that low income is different in different parts of the country, and so you get to self-identify if that matches with your identity and your experience. And then lastly, we do serve undocumented students. And so the way we define that is students who are without lawful permanent status, which would include DACA recipients. So again, these terms, we don't check at the door if you identify as this, or if you don't have a parent degree listed on your record. There is no way that we check for that. So we are open to students who identify with any part of this identity. Right. We also, along with that, want to highlight that part of our mission was to promote student success. And we recognize that that may look different for different students. So whatever your definition of success is, whether that's academic, personal, the way you're interacting on campus, we're here to support you with that, and whatever version that may look like for you. Right. And so a couple of the programs that we offer. So we facilitate several key programs and then events and resources, which I'll talk about in a second. One of the main programs that we have that if you identify as FLY, as an incoming student, you should look out for, it's called Maroon Mentors. So it's a peer mentor program similar to others that you may be familiar with, but it's specifically for the FLY community. So we have FLY upperclassmen who you'll be assigned to, and there'll be different events throughout the year to help you transition into your first year. So you'll get matched with someone that will check in with you and a group of other students throughout your entire first year, along with the support that CCSS will provide to all of you as mentees. So I'll be putting information for our website and social media at the end. So if that applies to you, we'd really encourage you to look out for when we have signups for Maroon Mentors. We also have the Odyssey Scholars Community Fellows, which is now known as FLY Fellows, where we support leadership development for FLY students in their advocacy pursuits on campus. We're a part of the FLY network, which means we partner with services, with offices that serve FLY graduate students and professional students as well. So we have a network of FLY staff members, FLY faculty, FLY graduate students, and FLY alumni that are here to be in community with you and to support you. We also run the CAP program, which some of you may be participating in. It is for incoming first-year students. We've already went through the selection process for that. So it's unfortunately not open, but our community is, of course, open to anyone, whether you participated in CAP or not. And then lastly, on here is the Odyssey Scholarship Program. We don't run that program, but we are a partner in providing support to Odyssey Scholars. So if you are an Odyssey Scholar, you would be, we have different events that we put on specifically for you. Right, so I mentioned that we do some social events. So here is just a collage of some of the events that we did this past year. Just a handful of them. We had many more, but just to give you an idea of some of the ways you can engage with our community. So we have things like study breaks. We had a study and dip FLY Friday where we had Popeye's chicken nuggets and tons of sauces where you could just stop by and grab some and socialize. We also had a Bobby event, which you can see in this top right picture. This is in our lounge at CCSS. We also have things that go beyond just social events in our resources. So we had a panel on moving off campus as a FLY student and using financial aid, where we had upperclassmen come in and talk about different things that you need to know if you're considering moving off campus. And then we had here a FLY student virtual town hall. So that was facilitated by our Odyssey Scholars Community Fellows, where it's a chance to get feedback about the FLY experience and how we can better serve you. So lots of different events. And again, this top one was in our space, so you can see it's a space to come, to hang out, and to get connected to the community. Okay, so a couple more points that I wanted to highlight around what CCSS can offer you. And again, we focus on supporting FLY students, but is open to all students in the college. All three of us as staff members, we do have appointments available for one-on-one meetings to check in. So if you want to check in and you have a question about how to move off campus and you weren't able to make the event, we can connect you with someone you want to talk about you're having a certain issue and you're not sure where to turn, if we don't know the answer, we know who does, and we can help connect you to them. And we're also here just to check in and see how your first year or any year that you're here, how is it going? We're here as a resource, not just in terms of giving specific advice on classes and whatnot, but also just to be here to have another person in your corner as you transition to college. Like I mentioned, we do Odyssey Scholars events, Fly community events, study breaks, and we also have small group discussions where you really get to connect with other people around this Fly identity or just around being a first year in general and how that experience is going. Mentioned in the very beginning, we do have a study space that is open to anyone who wants to come by, and we always have free snacks and free tea and coffee available. A couple more resources that I wanted to highlight that we have available for students. So we do have a laptop lending program. You can find out more information about all of these on our website. The laptop lending program is where you can rent a laptop for up to 4 weeks. So let's say your computer breaks, you have a midterm due the next day, or maybe a couple of days from when your laptop breaks. It takes us a few days to get it processed, but you don't know where to go, you can't get a laptop on such short notice, a new one, we can help lend one to you. And again, you can check it out for up to 4 weeks at a time. And it's meant to help in that transition period if you're looking for something new or need to save up a little bit more money to get a laptop, we can provide you one in the meantime. We also have free printing. So in our office, we have a printer, and you're able to print for free. You do have to set up an account, but you get 100 free pages per quarter through our free printing program. We have resources if you're experiencing food insecurity, not enough food, not enough money to pay for food. We have some resources that can help out with that. I mentioned we have workshops. So I already mentioned a couple of these, but we do have things like how do you go abroad on a budget? How do you take care of yourself? As a Fly student, as someone who's experiencing a lot of stress during your first year, we have some workshops where we'll bring in speakers and panelists to help out with some of those topics. And then finally, we also have trainings for faculty, staff, and students. So not only do we help provide some of that direct support, but we also try to get some of these tips to our larger community so that support can be throughout campus and not just from our office. All right, so if any of that stood out to you, or if you do identify as Fly or just really like some of the resources that we provide and want to get connected to our community, would really encourage you to check out our website. So it's ccssuchicago.edu. I put it in the chat box as well. On our website, I have a QR code coming up in just a second. So on our website, you can sign up to have a meeting with any of us three. Like I mentioned, you also can subscribe to our weekly email, which I would highly recommend. It's where we put all of our upcoming opportunities. It's where we put all of the highlights of resources that we have and events coming up. So I'd really recommend that you subscribe to that. It's on pause for the summer, but it'll start again in the fall. And then you can check out any of the other resources that I mentioned on that website. We also have an Instagram page. We also have a Facebook and Twitter, but here's the QR code for our Instagram and also our website. Instagram, of course, is where we post all of our updates about things coming up. So feel free to follow us to stay connected to what is going on. And saw that there are also some questions in the chat box. My time is almost up, so feel free to put some questions in the chat box and I'll try to answer them as we go along. But I see here, would you qualify as first generation if neither of your parents went to college in the US? Yes. So because it's a different education system, you would qualify as first gen if your parents got a degree in another country, for example. And is the Odyssey Scholarship Program only available to first year students? So those who were Odyssey Scholars, you would have already received that in your financial aid package. And it is for first year students, but it takes you are an Odyssey Scholar throughout your time at the University of Chicago. All right, well, thank you all, and welcome again to U Chicago. Feel free to put more questions in the chat box and visit us on our website if you want to learn more. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. Appreciate it. And like Jennifer mentioned, you can throw questions in the Q&A in the chat box this entire time, and we'll try to go ahead and get them all answered for you. There we go, a slide just for that. That's perfect. Next up, we are going to move right along to Danielle Garvey, who is here with Student Disability Services. So Danielle, I will pass it on to you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Garvey. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Associate Director of Student Disability Services, also known as SDS. So for today, this is the outline of the presentation, and we'll be starting off with some introductions of our staff in our office. So SDS is located at 5501 South Ellis. It's right on the corner of Ellis and 55th, and also directly across from Ratner. That's an easier reference point. We do meet with students in person as well as by Zoom and telephone. And our office hours are Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Part of our work is ensuring that students with disabilities are able to fully participate and equally participate in university life. So these are some of our staff. Sharnessa Warren is the director of SDS. Cappy Fahey is the deputy director. Amber DiCasola and myself are associate directors. Cappy, Amber, and myself all work with students during the application process, and we're assigned to them as each student's SDS advisor. We also have different portfolio areas of accommodations, including exam proctoring for students with testing accommodations and document conversion, which includes things like accessible versions of text or conversions for items that may need to be converted to Braille text, or PDFs for students who use assistive technology. Sandra Fernandez is our senior program coordinator and accommodation specialist who students with testing accommodations will work with. And Morgan Severide will work with students who have document conversion needs. Currently, we don't have a communication access and note-taking support coordinator, so Amber DiCasola is working with students who have those needs. And just for reference, communication access includes accommodations like ASL interpreting and captioning. So next up, I'll be going over some background information about the university's responsibilities under the law. So there is some legal framework that informs our work in SDS, and that includes the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. So these acts help to provide some guidance as well as definitions that informs our work and our accommodation determinations. The purpose of the laws is to make sure that people with disabilities have the same rights and opportunities as everyone else. And the University of Chicago is responsible for providing reasonable accommodations to qualified individuals with disabilities. And I'll go over what these things mean. So a qualified individual is a person who is capable of fulfilling the essential elements of the educational program with or without reasonable accommodations. And then a disability is defined as a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities, a person who has a history or record of such an impairment, or a person who is perceived by others as having such an impairment. There is no finite list of major life activities, but some of the activities that have been specifically listed include walking, standing, lifting, major bodily functions, seeing, hearing, thinking, reading, writing, attention, sleeping, and working. A reasonable accommodation is an adjustment to a course, program, service, job, activity, or facility that enables a person with a disability to have equal access to university programs. An accommodation may not be considered reasonable if it would not match the disability-related need, require what's called a fundamental alteration to a program, result in the violation of an accreditation requirement, or result in an undue financial or administrative burden or hardship on the university. So next up, I'll go over our application process, which is also a very interactive process. So our website is a helpful starting point for students, because it includes information about our application process, also has information about how to use accommodations. I think some slides were skipped, but just to go over our application process, it includes the submission of our online application, which is available on our website. It includes the submission of supporting documentation from a licensed treating professional and completion of what's called an interactive process or intake appointment. And that intake appointment is an opportunity for students to share information from their perspective. That way we can take the student perspective into account in the review process. Once all of those steps are completed, the SDS office will review the requests and students will receive information regarding the determination of their eligibility for an accommodation. Along with that notification, students may also receive information about how to use accommodations in their program, which is also included on our website. So we provide resources to students about how to navigate using accommodations at the college level, which may be very different from their experiences at K through 12 level. These are some examples of disabilities and types of disabilities. So students may apply for accommodations for a psychological disability, a learning or neurodevelopmental disability. We also work with students who have temporary disabilities, most commonly, especially in the winter when there's a little bit of ice on the sidewalk, students may come to us to request services for concussions. And then we also work with students who have physical disabilities or more than one disability. And this is just an outline of our interactive process. What's helpful to note about this is that we do review requests on an individual basis. And that's because each student's experience is very different or unique. And even students with the same condition can experience it differently. So we are really looking to work with the student to identify which accommodations would be a good fit for their needs. So we work with different areas of student life. And that may include students who may need employment accommodations for any jobs on campus or internships as well. Academic accommodations that may apply to the classroom, to assignments, homework, or tests. Applications, like the university applications that are available to all students. Listening devices for students who may use any sort of FM devices or hearing aids that require Bluetooth compatibility with a microphone in the classroom. Physical accessibility of facilities and campus grounds, most commonly identifying accessible routes on campus. Accessible information technology. Accessibility for programs, events, and services. So any university hosted or sponsored events we do work with to provide accommodations. And then accessible course and library materials. These different areas do require a lot of the times engagement with other offices on campus. So we do partner with other departments that may include the athletics department, libraries, housing and residence life, campus and student life, and human resources. These are a list of some of the more commonly requested accommodations, but again, there is no finite list because the human experience is sort of endless. So most commonly, students may request testing accommodations, which may include extended time and reduced distraction testing environment. Note-taking assistance for students who may require accommodations while they're taking notes in class. Document conversion or alternative formats of text for items that may require text-to-speech or large print. Interpreters and captioning, parking and transportation. There is a service called Dial Ride, most commonly used for students who may have an injury. Facilities access and barrier removal. Housing accommodations, which may include things like a private room or single room. an accessible location, or centrally located housing. We do work with students who may have dining related needs, for example, students who have allergies. And then we do work with students who have academic adjustment requests for things that may require flexibility, like a deadline extension on an assignment. So next up, I'll give an overview of using accommodations at UChicago. So our students with accommodations use our AIM portal, and this link is available on our website. And they use this system to electronically notify their professors of their accommodations. And this will then notify the professor of the accommodations, and students will typically then have a conversation with their professors to discuss how to use the accommodations in that class. So that conversation typically covers things like, where should a student report if they're taking an exam with extended time? What sort of information may be reported if a student has an accommodation to record the lectures, and any other relevant details. So in that notification system, we do recommend that students notify their professors as early as possible, so that way their professors can provide the accommodations. Professors must be provided advance notice, at bare minimum, at least 7 days advance notice of the accommodations, but the earlier the better. And then here is our contact information and our website. If a student already has an SDS assigned advisor, they're more than welcome to reach out to that SDS director directly, or can contact us generally for more general information. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Danielle. And again, if you want to submit any questions to that Q&A portion, Danielle will be able to answer them, or you can also send them in the chat or reach out directly, because we have all of this great information right on the screen in front of you. If you want to take a photo, or again, this will be, we can throw it in the chat. It'll be recorded as well. And so now it is time for our final guest today, and we have Dana Courier from Study Abroad. So I'm going to hand it over to Dana.
Great, thank you so much, Samuel. Hi, everyone. My name is Dana Courier. I use she, her pronouns as well, and I am the Associate Director of Study Abroad. So we can move on. So I'm going to give you kind of an introduction to how Study Abroad works here at the University of Chicago, talk about various aspects of study abroad, the types of programs we offer, the application process, all of that. And I want to start by just talking about the philosophy of study abroad here at Chicago and how we view, the study abroad experience. So, I think a lot of people come to Chicago, the University of Chicago, to study with the wonderful faculty here and engage with their peers. So really we view studying abroad as just situating that same experience in another location, where you actually get the benefits of being in a foreign country, and really engaging with the site itself, in addition to all of the wonderful things that you get, when you're on campus. So the site itself, wherever you are when you're studying abroad, is meant to enrich and inform the curriculum. These are academically rigorous programs. We don't view study abroad as, a break from your studies or a vacation. These are really challenging, as I said, academically rigorous programs. They are designed by the faculty. So in most cases, the majority of our programs are faculty-led programs. So they are designed by the faculty, the courses are taught by University of Chicago faculty, just for University of Chicago students. Typically the courses are pretty small, around the range of 25 to 26 students per program. So again, really getting a cohort experience, with a small group of Chicago students abroad. We can move on. Okay, so we break down the types of programs that we offer into a couple of different categories. As I said, the majority of our programs are what's called faculty-led. So, taught by University of Chicago faculty just for Chicago students. And within that category, we have a couple of we break it down a little bit further. So we have civilizations programs where the curriculum is focused on the core civilizations requirement that all students have to satisfy, as one of their general education requirements here in the college. We have a group of programs that we call thematic programs, and those focus on different subject areas. So again, I'll share some examples of what that looks like. Both of those types of programs are quarter-long programs, so a full quarter spent abroad. But we also have faculty-led programs that take place in September, which are much shorter, just a 3-week, one-course program. And that can be really appealing for students who may not want to spend a full quarter abroad. We also have what's called direct enrollment programs. So those are more what you might think of when you think of kind of the traditional study abroad experience, where you actually go and take classes at another institution abroad, either for, depends on the type of term that institution offers. So maybe a semester. It may be, there are a few other schools, abroad that offer or that operate on the quarter system. So it could be a quarter or a full year. There's a lot of different options there. But that's definitely a more, immersive experience where you are, at least for that period, that term, you're enrolling at that foreign university and taking classes with, full-time students who attend that university. And then we also have a few intensive language programs that really focus on language acquisition, is the main goal of the program. We do have a few of those. And we also have opportunities for students to apply for funding to study abroad in the summer, usually through programs that are offered by other institutions. So maybe language schools or other universities abroad. And typically either students are doing language learning or conducting research in the summer, and you can apply for funding to do that through our office. Okay, so the civilizations and thematic programs, I'll talk about those together. These are quarter-long sequences, again, that are taught by University of Chicago faculty. For the Civ programs, you can definitely use those to fulfill the college core Civ requirement. Some of our other thematic programs can be used to satisfy other core requirements as well, or to earn credit toward a major or minor, or toward the elective credits that students need to take for their degree. Almost all of these programs are taught in English, so you don't have to have any background in the local language in order to participate. And many students are in that position. So they may never have studied, Greek, but they are going to, study abroad in Athens, or, maybe have never studied Spanish, but are going to study abroad in Oaxaca. So that's not a prerequisite for most of our programs. We do have a few programs, one Civ program in Barcelona and one in Paris, that are taught either in Spanish or French. So you do need to be at a certain level with your Spanish or French to participate in those programs, but the rest of the programs do not require any level of, the particular language. That being said, when you're studying abroad in one of these programs, we do feel that it's really important to learn the language as part of that experience. So you do take a language course while you're in the program. If you've studied, let's say, Spanish in high school, but you do want to participate in the program in Oaxaca, Mexico, you can take Spanish at an intermediate level or even an advanced level while you're there. So we do offer multiple levels of the language. We usually work with you in, process leading up to the program just to determine what's the best level for you and, as you're enrolling in courses. And then I think, one of the most important parts of these programs are the excursions that the faculty design, as part of their courses that really integrate the academic component of the course. So what you're reading and talking about in class with, the site itself. So going to museums or archaeological sites. I mean, the photo here is from the Athens program, where students do a lot of, traveling around Greece and seeing really what is left of ancient civilization, in Greece, which there is a lot of in that particular location. So, that's really why you're there, is to get out and see these things, to hear about these sites from the faculty who are really experts in the areas that they're teaching, and really, learn on a different level than you might be able to on campus. So the civilizations programs are offered in all of these locations listed here. I've included just a few examples of the thematic programs as well, but these are all, the full list can be found on our website as well. So, British literature, history, and culture in London, for example, or global health in Paris. There's a lot of different options available. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about our direct enrollment programs now. Again, this is the type of program where you're actually taking classes at another university that we have a partnership with. So we have a set, group of programs that we offer that are built on partnerships that we have with various universities around the world. And when you are participating in these programs, despite the name and the idea that you're actually enrolling at that university, you technically do stay enrolled at the University of Chicago. So all of the credits that you earn will count toward your degree. You're not taking a leave of absence or anything like that from the University of Chicago. You are guaranteed to earn credit. Where it becomes a little bit more fluid is, what types of credit are you going to earn? Most students are, when they're doing a direct enrollment program, they're at the point where they're really focused more on major coursework. So they're going to work with their major department to determine, what types of credit they will be able to earn when they're taking classes at a partner institution, and how that credit will apply toward their major. Or, as electives. I think the base expectation is that you can earn credit, toward your degree on that to fulfill the elective credits that you need to take. So, you're taking classes taught by faculty at that institution. You're in classes with students who are enrolled either full-time at that institution or other international students who are there for a term. And again, you're having a more independent, immersive experience, because you're really getting to know what it's like to be a student at, King's College in London or Yonsei University in Seoul, Korea. So again, this is a different type of program, but I think it's a type of experience that appeals to some students and maybe not others. So the list of locations where we offer direct enrollment programs are here. You can see that we do have several institutions that we work with in Great Britain and Ireland, and that, there's a lot of appeal to students to take classes at these institutions. There's no necessarily language barrier here. Some of these programs, you do need to have a pretty high level of the local language in order to take classes at the university, but not always. So I would say, if you're interested, it always helps to learn more about the programs and, what options are available to students who, may not have a really high level of Italian, but are interested in taking classes at like Bocconi University in Milan. They do offer a fair number of classes taught in English. So it's always good, I think, to investigate a little if you're interested. And then we do have, like I said, 2 programs, just a few that focus on language acquisition. So we have a Spanish program in Toledo, Spain that's offered in the autumn. and then a French program in Paris that's offered over the summer. And these are both aimed at students who are kind of at the intermediate level in these languages, so who really want to make like a large amount of progress in a short period of time, whether it's, the autumn quarter or in the summer, to kind of boost them to that really high level of the language in a short period of time. So again, appeals to certain students. Okay, and then the summer funding opportunity is what we call our Summer International Travel Grants, or SITGs. And they, as I said, that provides financial support for either language study or research abroad over the summer. Again, students are mostly enrolling in programs that they find offered by other institutions. So we don't have a lot of summer programming, that's offered by the university, but we do, to compensate for that, offer money to students, to go do programs offered at language schools or other universities or other organizations. And there are some basic eligibility requirements in terms of like the amount of time you need to be taking classes, but really there's a lot of flexibility here. So if you want to study Swedish, over the summer in Sweden, you can apply for a foreign language acquisition grant, or a FLAG as we call it. If you want to do research for your BA project that you're, planning to finish in your 4th year, and you want to do that in, another foreign country, you can apply for a grant to finance that experience. All of the grants are $5,000, regardless of where you're going. And about 100 students are, receive the funding every summer. And I'll talk again about a different type of faculty-led program, our September programs. These are the newest type of programs that we offer. Just in the last few years have these become available, but it's a really great option for students who are looking for a shorter term study abroad program that's not, during the academic year. So these are offered in September before classes start in the fall. They're 3-week programs that really just include one course that you take. And they're offered currently in a couple of different subject areas. So law, letters, and society is one option. There's a history-focused program in Florence, and a couple of different options, again, that are all described on our website. But you can, earn a credit for the single course that you take while you're there. Sometimes that can be used toward a major if that aligns with the major that you're thinking of, or minor, or it can be used as elective credit. And these are open to students from all academic backgrounds. I think, in some specific cases, there are course prerequisites that might apply, but most of the time, really, you don't need to have a particular background in any subject area in order to participate in these programs. And just a couple of sort of basic parameters for how these programs work. So as I mentioned, in direct enrollment, and it's true for all of our programs, you remain registered at Chicago while you're abroad. So you do not need to apply for transfer credit or anything like that. These courses the credits, and the grades will show up on your transcript. And in most cases will apply, count towards your GPA. So the only exception to that is the courses you take through a direct enrollment program. They all show up on your transcript, all the grades and everything, but they are not calculated into your GPA. All of the other programs, though, they will be. The tuition is the same, so when you stay enrolled, that means you pay the same tuition, and you retain your full financial aid eligibility, which I think is really helpful. I'll talk about that in a minute, but most of our faculty-led programs do have a program fee, which covers things like housing and the excursions that you're participating in. And there's an administrative fee that you pay when you accept a spot in a program. But you don't pay things like room and board or the student services fee, while you're abroad. in many cases, you do retain your full financial aid eligibility, and often students do receive additional aid to help cover some of these additional expenses. So, there are not a lot of financial barriers to studying abroad. It does depend on the type of financial aid that you receive, but I think the university is usually really quite generous in funding study abroad, as a really important academic experience that's part of your time here at the university. So if you have questions about anything, you can reach out to me. I work with students directly on funding and financial aid questions. So I'm happy to talk with you, about how your financial aid will work when you study abroad. So as incoming first years, you may not be ready to study abroad right away, but I think it's helpful to think about how can you think ahead and start planning for this. If it's an important part of your experience, you want to be, prepared and ready to think about it. So again, I really recommend visiting our website, looking at all of the program options that are available, thinking about which ones appeal to you, when those programs are offered, and when you'd like to go. Students can study abroad, and I'll talk about this too, I'll come back to it, but starting in the spring of their first year. So it is possible to study abroad as a first year if you're really eager to go, all the way through the end of their fourth year. So, or whenever they graduate. So really there's a lot of flexibility about when you go, and it's really kind of what is the best fit for you, based on other commitments that you might have on campus, or what your major requirements might be when you need to be on campus. You can, decide what makes the most sense for you in terms of the timing. Each of our programs, has a specific program coordinator. So there are several of us in the office who work on programs, and each program page on our website lists the name of the program coordinator. And often there's a link either to that coordinator's appointment schedule or to their email address so that you can reach out to that person and talk with them specifically about the programs that you're interested in. As we get closer to the start of autumn quarter, we will start sending out announcements to everybody. You don't have to sign up for our newsletter or anything like that, just about various information sessions that we will be offering. In the fall, we usually offer kind of the same information session at a couple of different times so that you can attend at a time that makes sense for you. And it's really just an opportunity to learn about study abroad and again, start planning early, in your experience. All of our programs do require that you apply, so there is an application process. But at the info sessions, we talk through the details of how that application process works and when you apply for certain programs. We can go on. So finally, I just wanted to talk about a few kind of frequently asked questions. Anyone of any student who's majoring in any department can study abroad. I know sometimes there's the perception out there that certain majors, if you're, a science major or an econ major, like there's just you can't possibly study abroad, but that's not true. With careful planning, we've worked with students in every major to find a way to study abroad. So that is possible. You can study abroad more than once, and you can do different types of study abroad. The only limitation we have is that students can only participate in one civilizations program. There's a lot of demand on those programs and they're quite competitive. So we do limit students to one civ program, but you can combine civ and thematic and direct enrollment. And, we've worked with students who've studied abroad 3 or 4 times during their UChicago career. So it's possible. And as I said, you can start in the spring of your first year and go all the way through the end of your 4th year. So I know I've run over my time a little bit, but I'm happy to answer questions at this point.
Fantastic. Thank each of you. We do have a couple questions that are in there if you want to go ahead and answer them live under the Q&A. It looks like the ones who are in the Q&A right now are all study abroad. So Dana, are you ready? We can go rapid fire.
Yes, I'm happy to answer questions.
Sure thing. Okay, can courses taken during a direct enrollment program count towards core credit?
Yes, they can. I think that's a little bit more challenging because there is a petition process for core credits like Civ or art, music, drama, to be counted from when you take those at other institutions, they need to fulfill certain requirements in order to be approved to count towards certain core credits. But students have done that before. It's just a little bit of extra work that you need to do. Mm-hmm.
Sure thing. If you do plan to take a major that has a language competency requirement, which you can complete with study abroad, but you also want to study abroad for your civilization requirement, can this be one trip or two separate trips?
Yeah, so the way the Civ programs work is you take 4 courses. You take a 3-course Civ sequence and then also a language course. So it's true that the college sort of generally does not allow double counting any one particular course toward a requirement. But, if you're taking the language course to satisfy a language competency requirement, that's not the same course that you're using, when you study abroad to satisfy the Civ requirement. So that should work out.
Sounds great. Just a clarification, when you study abroad for your Civ course, do you also take other courses simultaneously?
No. So I know this has become a question that we're getting more and more because of, remote coursework that can occasionally be done still. When you're studying abroad, you're taking just the courses that are offered through that particular program. So if it's a Civ program, again, that means a 3-course Civ sequence and a language course. You're not also taking classes, remotely, from that are offered on campus or anything like that. You're just doing the courses that are offered through that program.
Sure thing. And then final question so far, how selective are the study abroad programs? Is it reasonable to expect to be accepted to at least one program?
Yeah, so this is a good question. I think it's important to know that some of our programs are really quite competitive. So certain Civ programs or those British Irish programs like studying at Oxford, for example, there are a lot of students who want to do that and very few spots available. So some of them, it can be quite hard to get into. That being said, we also have a lot of programs. So if it doesn't work out for you to be admitted to your first choice program, we can often, and I would say in almost all cases, find a program, maybe not your first choice, but also, quite appealing, that will give you a lot of benefit, that will work for you. And I would say a student who is passionate about studying abroad and has at least a little bit of flexibility can always find something that will work for them. So being able to study abroad is almost always possible. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And we have one last second submission. Our final question for the webinar: how many courses are you allowed to take during direct enrollment?
Yeah, that's not an easy question to answer in a general way, because a lot of these different universities offer courses that operate on different credit systems than we do. So in each individual case, we have a conversion system that we can use to say, okay, you can take this course at this university counts as a certain amount of credit here at Chicago. But it depends a lot on, the type of term that the school offers or the number of hours that the course meets. So it really depends on the university. In most cases, students are taking a similar number of courses, 3 to 4 courses at a time. Yeah.
Perfect. And we got one more in before I was able to say that it was the last one, so I'll allow it. Do you ever find that the programs presented today intersect? For example, how do SDS and CCSS interact? Do you ever see kind of that partnership coming into play for students?
Yeah, I can start by answering. I work with SDS and CCSS regularly throughout the year, and I think we intersect a lot. There are students who have accommodations and obviously still want to study abroad, and we work together to make that work. And like Jennifer mentioned, I do a workshop with CCSS on studying abroad on a budget. So I know from study abroad perspective, we intersect all the time.
And then for CCSS, we do work a lot. If there are any students in the programs that Jennifer shared, we'll go over how to use their accommodations, especially if they're enrolled in any sort of summer programs right before starting in the autumn.
And we serve, just as was mentioned already, as a connector to a lot of resources. So even if it's not a formal partnership, like a program like Dana mentioned, we meet with students. And like I said, if we don't have the answer, we know who does. And so we're often sending students to the right resource, which may be one of these offices.
Perfect. Well, Danielle, Jennifer, Dana, thank you each so much for being here today. We greatly appreciate it. For students who are watching, we do have another academic resources panel that will be occurring next Tuesday. That is going to feature a little bit on research and fellowship, as well as university libraries. So if you're interested in those two areas of research and just academic resources in general, be sure to join us. All of our upcoming webinars and panels, as well as recordings of our past ones, are available on our website at that link that Whitney sent at the top of the chat. So go ahead and check that out. And you can find us easily on the college's website too, underneath Student Life, or in the chat right there. Thank you, Whitney. Thank each of you for attending today. And thank you so much to our panelists. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And we will see you again soon.